his head, and there he goes. Abyss gonna clean him up.
Olaf goes down. Everyone's just going to line up here for Lazzy. He's going to find himself the Quadra. Give it to him. That's a kill.
Priestley with the quad feed.
Gets the ace. Available, just spin to win all over.
That game was insane.
It's playoff final time here for the PlayVS Fortnite playoffs in the Ciriuhs section. And it's going to be extremely exciting as we have the top teams of this entire season. 33 teams here tonight to try and find themselves at the top here of this entire PlayVS League. My name's Dan Banner, also known as Mr. Danner, is going to be your host and producer here for tonight, bringing you all of the action here in these playoff games. Very similar format compared to Monday's events. And we'll go over that very, very shortly. But of course, the St. Clair squad of Ciriuhs, Laysix, and Juneyy extremely excited to get into the action, as they, if you didn't catch the stream on Monday, that was definitely an extremely super climactic ending to the entire thing, where our Saints were having themselves a bit of a mediocre day, to be honest. Like they're in the top half and whatnot, but they were still, they need to get that top 15, top 16 spot, or the 16th would have been the tiebreaker. But they were always in 21st, 23rd for the majority of the session, and it was extremely brutal. They were just not quite finding the rounds they needed. But then in the very last possible game, they did manage to get themselves all the way up to the very tail ending. It was Laysix and Juneyy up against the one player, I think it was Mars, and unfortunately for the Saints, they ended up losing that 2v1. Mars from the University of Maryland. He shut us down there, and it was really nerve-wracking because it was a good game. The Saints got themselves an okay amount of eliminations, but there was just enough points there to squeak us into that 15th position to get us here into these playoffs and get into these games are just about to go on down. Now we have a little bit to talk about before we hop into the first game. Not a whole heck of a lot of time to do it, so bear with me as we are going to go flying through basically the format of how tonight is going to end up going down. Of course, if it's your first time joining us here for PlayVS Fortnite, basically we have up to 33 teams here in this final session, so that is 99 players in one game across multiple collegiate institutions. Players will have from here, so from 7:30 all the way up until 10:30 to complete the 6 games. All of the games are going to be run simultaneously, so that this lobby doesn't end up mixing up and that there's not the full lobby available. Everybody's going to be in every single game. You score points based off of your finishing position as well as your eliminations. Kind of see a little bit of the points breakdown there before, and that's every single position you go up, it would be a point in this case. So say if you're from 21st to 30th, you get a point every time you go up one. Break into the top 20, it's 2 points. Top 5, 3, and then of course you get the victory royale. You get yourself 5 additional bonus points on top of all of the other bonus points that you got during that session. And of course, in regards to eliminations, there is a cap on points that means that you just can't go completely guns blazing. You do have to worry about where you're positioning as well. That being said, though, 40 points, that is 20 kills. So that is a ton to try and go through, and I don't think that too many teams even got close to really breaking it in the sessions last Monday. So that being said, though, there was a couple of them that were extremely close, actually. I know the University of Maryland with Mars Bags and 7, they had an average elimination count of 15 eliminations per game. So that is just absolutely insane in regards to points. So that'll be something we definitely keep an eye on as we move into the first game momentarily. One thing that I wanted to point out, actually, though, we have something a little bit interesting before we hop into game 1. With a lot of VOD review, a lot of digging through and seeing exactly who is on each of these teams, because unfortunately in game you just see the tag, you do not see the team. But of the ton of VOD review, we finally have ourselves a little bit of context here with our PlayVS territory battle, which we'll show right here, right now. Of course, this area off to the very far western side, that's where the Saints have been dropping this entire season, basically going to be uncontested. Meanwhile, the rest of the squads here, Oddly enough, rather spread out. However, there are a couple of hot spots here going to be labeled by my little flames here. They just popped on out here. Oddly enough, that is going to be the Miami University of Ohio alongside North Virginia Community College, who are battling out for that one spot down in the very southeastern area. And it's a very tiny spot. It's a very contested spot due to the amount of loot that is in that section. So it's going to be, you'll probably see it a couple times here, because of course you also have Rutgers University alongside, I believe that's the University of Wisconsin-Madison up in the very northern section, as well as UCLA and Michigan State battling for the same area, as well as actually Ontario Tech and Clemson University. So there's going to be quite a few areas to contest where some of these teams, they may opt to maybe switch their strategy a little bit if they realize they drop on in and they're constantly like going head to head with each other and they're having themselves a bit of a harder time. They may opt to maybe switch their strategy here. Of course, this is just based off of VOD review. However, this doesn't mean that this is exactly what they're going to use, so take it as you will. Meanwhile, of course, specifically looking at our Saints over on the far western side, the UCLA and Michigan State battle is something that we're going to have to take and keep our eye on as well, because more than likely, if the storm goes towards the east, we're going to keep running into them as well. I believe that is the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, that is there in the Sweaty Sands area. And then that's going to be Concordia University up above us there in the islands. Those are probably going to be a couple of teams that we're going to run into rather consistently if they end up going exactly by this map. That being said, though, we are getting ready to hop into the game. The moderators are just getting the queues all set up, and then we just have to wait for the delay itself to happen. So without too much additional delay, we're going to take this to a very, very quick break in a moment to get this matchup all set up. But definitely, again, looking forward to these matches. Fortnite has definitely been one of these games this season that has absolutely grown on me. And it's not necessarily that I didn't like Fortnite before. It was just always so hard to keep up with all the updates that was going on with this game. But now, kind of getting to watch a bunch of games back to back and able to kind of catch it all with like minimal changes. Like, the players are just absolutely showing off a little bit, and definitely going to be doing my best here today to make it as easy as possible for everybody to get as much context as possible, know exactly which players are from which schools, and we're not just calling out usernames, and it's going to be an enjoyable, exciting night of Fortnite. Without further ado, we'll take this to a very, very quick break. I will join you as soon as we drop out of the bus for game number 1.